Okay, it's the 14th of July. I'll go through the copper trade idea because I've had a few DMs, so it'd be much easier for me to talk you through the analysis as opposed to responding to messages. So please read this information, not saying to buy or sell this asset. I should reiterate that it's kind of up to you guys what you do with this information. I can just show you what I think is very, very likely going to happen to copper. I guess I'll go through like the money flow side of things first, and then I'll just go through supply and demand. So hopefully it will really make sense. You can just see, so um, like nice regular rhythms to the copper chart. Has to load you out here towards the very end of July. So about 2 weeks from now is when the ideal low is due in the copper chart. So this um, short trade idea will ideally be for a week or two, as it should move down into the ideal lows. It's done every single time. You can see every time it's been late in phase, you've had the move down. This one, of course, very, very violent. This one very shallow. This one quite violent. Again, another very, very violent one back here. This one was obviously failed very early and then moved down the whole phasing. Was in 2024, so another weekly low due at the end of this month. So the best way to think about these high time frame phases is you think about different market participants. So these weekly phases are people that are holding on to trades for a longer period of time, and then the daily phasings are people that are shorter term focused, and then you've got the very tiny phases, which I guess intraday traders. Now, you can see what's happened here. So you think about the high time frame phase on copper. If you go phase by phase, it's something like this. There's three minor phases to it. This was the low here, came slightly early. Makes much more sense. That's when you can see the shape we've got to this. So somebody moved into the market, a really explosive move higher, another really explosive move higher, distributed. It didn't really go anywhere at the low, and it took the low out, which tells us with quite a high degree of probability that it's very likely it's not going to move higher in this last part of the phase. It's much more likely to move down. It's moved down every single time late in phase. So that's just based on historic data and just reading how the money's moved in and out of this asset. And you think just from a pure supply and demand point of view as well. Just Sorry, we just get this done here. So I've just put a yellow box over fair value. It's the same things I keep showing you on all these charts. So you can see how much time it's spending inside here. All of this whippy price action, that's all values. It's done the same up here. So you can see it's been spiked down here. And there's more sellers and buyers here. It can't spend any time here. It's been spiked down. Can't spend any time here. It's been spiked down, and so on and so on. Where's the opposite to this? Well, it's here, isn't it? That's where it's been spiked. All along here, bit of spike in here. So I think it's very likely that copper's going to move down to range low. Just clean that up and just go through one more thing. So that should be clear. So the money flow is suggesting that it's late in phase and the asset should be starting to top out and then moving down. And also we know that range high, there are more sellers and buyers because the asset can't spend much time up here. Now on the low time frame, what it's doing now, the low time frame, you can see, yeah, it's kind of formed a range in here. So it's very likely if the asset moves back down here, it's going to like bounce back up again. But as we get later in phase, in theory, it should move down through that. And that is quite a long range inside the center of value. So I would imagine that it's going to move into here, catch some kind of bid, and then move back up and then roll over. And ideally, take out these lows and then come and fill out the gap down here, which has been the long-term plan. What is that? 5.9 to 5.8 to 5.8-ish. So that's what I think is very likely going to happen in copper, and this is some kind of choppy whippy bear flag inside value, and eventually it's going to just follow the forecast. I just do a really quick summary so really clear. So the ideal low is due towards the very end of July. We know that every time it's been late in phase, it's moved down. We can see that that is very likely the prior phase low that's had the breakdown rally should fail. We can see what's happened here. Had the range, the move out of it. There are more sellers and buyers up here where supply exceeds demand. We can see every time it's come to these extreme levels outside this yellow zone, it's just failed to spend any time above there. I think a loss of 6.2 late in phase, or it takes like this low, very likely just do something like this. And that will be the end of that trade, and then move into level where objectively demand exceeds supply. So that's the way I'm looking at this copper trade. So it's a pretty nice trade setup in my opinion. So 6.4 down to 5.9 to 5.8. You can see it shouldn't be moving higher later in phase and taking out these highs. That would be very, very unusual. Um, yeah, so you can see if you take it at the 0.66, it'd be a 10% trade. So you can see it's definitely a trade to be looking at.